Hello everyone, welcome back to House of Chi Yoga. I am Chi and I'm happy to be sharing this yoga practice with you today. We're going to do a short series for the hips, a little bit of strengthening, a little bit of stretch, lots of mobility always. So we're going to go ahead and get started in downward facing dog. Meet me on the mat or wherever you're practicing today. Index fingers are forward, other fingertips are fan down, and then go ahead and walk the feet back and just start pedaling the heels. You can lower the hips a little bit, feel that stretch move into the side body, the outer hip. And then we're going to hold and center and add a pulse heel to toe. Now, when you drive up to the toes, I want you to feel that work go all the way through the ankles, the shins, pelvic floor, into the abdominals. And then we're going to push forward a little bit more, still moving from the toes. Once you hit a plank position, you work it all the way back to your downward facing. Let's go two more. Into our plank, back to down dog, all the way to plank, all the way to down dog. And then you're going to get your heels down to the mat if you can. You can always micro bend the knees. If the heels don't make it down to the floor yet, that's okay. Energetically, you're drawing them down to open the back of the kneecaps, open the back of the hamstrings, and then close off the ribs. Push the mat away from you a little bit more. And then exhale, bring the knees down to the mat. We'll take a little cat-cow spine, working tailbone to crown of head. And you're just working on mobilizing the spine, stretching between the vertebrae, kind of doing some spinal flossing here. Let's go one more. And then we'll go neutral spine, big figure eight across the hip line. So the QL muscle goes from the rib cage to the hips. You're trying to work with your QL muscle as you go right to left, hip to hip, sitting bone to sitting bone. And then we're just going to bring right leg up in the air in a big flex and just mobilize the hip. Just squeezing the glute muscle. Let's go opposite direction, working into the belly and the back body. And then we'll take the knee and go behind the left leg and back up into the air. Behind the leg, up into the air. I'm crossing midline. I'm using the inner leg lines. Let's go one more and keep it at the top this time. Active flex. Notice my right hip is staying closed. I'm keeping the abs in so that I can isolate the glute muscle. And then, instead of pulsing up, we're going to keep the foot flexed, but bring the knee towards the armpit. If you can tap the heel down, that's great. And bring it back up. Knee towards armpit, heel down, and lift. One more, and lift. And then we're going to place the foot outside the palm and just walk our way forward. Now, I want you to keep the entire foot, the front foot planted, but add some big circling through the hips. We'll go 3 one way, 3 opposite direction. I guess that's three opposite. Check in with the toes, make sure your toes are still working down. You're supporting the knee joint. And then we'll stay forward and just hold a stretch. Hands are on the mat. Use the triceps to lift and lengthen. It's kind of like you're holding a cobra in the upper body. Take a big inhale here. And then as we exhale, we'll tuck the chin, tuck your back toes, lift up towards a pike position. And I'm just going to have you move front to back. So I want weight shifting front leg to back leg. I'm lifting my toes. I'm working through my ankles. And then we're going to stay on the way back. I'm going to close my stance a little bit so that I can get my back heel down. And my right toes are pulling towards the sky. From there, this right hip, you're drawing towards the back wall. And then with your exhales, you're just releasing the head lower and lower, trying to get your thigh closer to your belly or your belly closer to your thigh, I guess. Oh, let's take one more breath here. And now I'm going to bend my front leg, plant the foot, and bring the back leg all the way through to a wide straddle forward fold. You can take opposite elbow. You can sway through the body. Now start bending the knees. Don't let any part of the foot come up, but just start working into the hips. I'm going to add a twist as I go right to left. Big toe, pinky toe, stay down. Inhale, open to your twist. Exhale as you cross through center. Inhale, open. Exhale, center, especially the pinky toes. Keep them down. Go one more. And then back through center. Fingertips are underneath the shoulders. You're going to peel the heels in. Watch as my tailbone tucks under. And then I'm going to press back into a forward fold. Heels come in, hips down, tailbone tuck under. Feel the glute muscles working. Let's go 3 more. Squeeze, lift through the inner thighs and press back. Squeeze it forward. Maybe get the hands even to float off the floor. One more time, I'm gonna bring the hands up and overhead this time. And then down to the mat, forward fold. You can bind to the ankles if you want to. Or using that bind to pull the chest towards the thigh. Check in with the toes, big toes and pinkies working down. And then we'll take the hands to the top of the mat, step it back to our downward facing dog. And any kind of movement through the hips here, let the body walk itself out. And then we'll bring it down to our quadruped again. Plant the palms, index fingers are forward, wrap into the core. Now we're moving on to our left leg. So make sure the abs are locked into place. You're gonna take the left leg up and find those big sweeping circles. Stabilize by using the ab muscles so the body isn't moving around too much. Movement is isolated in the hip joint. If you haven't switched directions with your circle, go ahead and switch. And then we'll take the left foot, hike it up, squeeze and isolate through the glute muscle. Remember, we're not pulsing into the back body, we're keeping the abs closed just so that we can focus on that left glute. 3, 2, and 1. And now we're crossing midline and pressing back to the ceiling. Cross and press. Don't lose your abs. Keep on squeezing. Last one. Now that knee is going to armpit, if you can tap the heel down, tap, and then press it back up. Whoo, that's a big range of motion there. Let's go one more. Now we'll bring the left foot outside the palm. I'm going to walk it forward a little bit. Keeping that top foot planted, you can add some big sweeping circles through the hips. We'll go a couple each direction here as well. And then I want to hold the stretch forward, make sure pinky toe, big toe is down. Watch as I press my palms down. I use my trap muscles and my triceps to lift and open through the heart. Now I have a bigger stretch through this whole front body area. I'll take one more breath here. Exhale as you bring the chin down. Shift the weight front to back. Lots of movement through the legs, through the hip, through the ankles. Open up the toes, make the toes work. And then I'm going to stay both legs straight, but I'm going to shorten my stance a little bit. So with that shorter stance, I can work my back heel down. I can pull my left hip to the wall behind me and then keep the left toes high. So I'm protecting the knee. I'm keeping the foot very active. I'm going to use my exhales to bring my forehead down to try to get my belly and thigh closer together. Whew, that is a nice deep stretch on the hamstrings. If you feel some tension, some tightness in the left side low back, make sure you're releasing, you're breathing, relaxing the hip muscles here. And then we'll slowly bring the left foot to plant, and the right foot is going to follow hips distance this time. I'm going to scoot myself back a little bit on my mat. Bend into the knees, and then just roll around heel to toe. Go to the inside of the leg, outside of the leg, or inside, outside of the foot. And then we'll completely unroll the foot to the mat. Inhale, palms up on overhead. And exhale, hands to your heart. Try to hold there. You can check your range of motion here a little bit. This is a very active move. I'm squeezing into the hips and the core. And you can go down even lower if you want to. Just see where your body's at today. Sometimes it also depends on what time of day it is, what you've already done, if your body's warmed up or not. And then we're going to go from your lowest point that you're comfortable going into all the way to a stand, and we inhale as we lift, and we exhale as we sink it back down to that low point. Inhale to lift. Exhale, bring it down. We'll go one more. Inhale to lift. Exhale, forward fold this time. Inhale to a flat back. And then exhale all the way through plank. Lower the knees all the way to the belly. Now I'm going to take my knuckles and I'm going to flip them up. If you can see, my knuckles are kind of flipped up. And I'm going to take them right to my hip flexors. And then you're just rolling around to massage the hip flexors. Try not to lay on my microphone so I'm kind of lifted. But you can lay flat on the floor. Relax, let the hip bones soften. And then we'll bring the hands to the top, and I'm just using the thumb around the sacrum. So I'm pressing towards the sacrum and then just doing little pulses around the sacrum. And you can walk all along that QL muscle line. So you can kind of move the hands towards the hip, back towards the spine, traveling from the ribs all the way down the hip line. And then we'll bring the hands underneath the chin. And you're going to lift the toes, point them, open the knees, bring the legs off the mat, and then do a low back extension. Again, I'm holding my upper body up just because I have this microphone, but you can relax on the ground. You can have one cheek to the mat. I want you to focus on extending from the tailbone all the way through the toes. We'll go one more. This time we're going to bring our feet together, open the knees even wider, and bring the inner arches of the feet down. So you're getting this nice rotation in the femur and hip joint. And just keep working the inner arches towards the floor. Keep breathing. The feet are heavy, the hips are heavy. And then let the legs go out. Give them a little shake. And we'll walk it back towards the child's pose. Toes together, knees are wide. And you're just going to take some movement in the hips here. So back to that figure eight movement. It's my favorite movement. You're working with the QL and the front abs this time. And you're just kind of softening and lubricating, stretching, mobilizing. And then we'll go ahead and walk it forward. Hands into our quadruped position. The right leg's going to stay. The left foot is going to go way far forward. You might have to heel toe yourself forward a little bit. And now watch as my back heel comes up, flex the foot, and I take it underneath my sits bone. So now I'm in this kind of open side, I don't know what you'd call it, stance, I guess. So I want to shift my weight forward towards this front leg. I'm using my arm to block the knee so that the knee doesn't cave into center. So I'm going to keep my arm close to the leg. I'm going to push the whole foot down, and then I'm going to drive weight forward. You have the option also to open up the arm here. This is really nice on the inner leg lines and the hips. You keep breathing. You can take the right arm to the back of the head, open up through the side body. And then one more exhale. We'll bring the right hand down. You're going to shift back into your lunge stance, and then just hold a normal low lunge here. You feel a nice stretch across the hip flexors. We're going to inhale into one high lunge, so extend through the back of the leg. Very controlled in your movement as you bring the palms up and overhead. And then you'll exhale to frame the left foot, float the left heel, and step it toward downward facing dog. And any movement you need there. We'll bring the knees back down and go to the opposite side. So my right foot is going to go way far forward, maybe heel toe it in. Watch as my back heel comes up. I pivot so the heel goes underneath the butt. And now I'm using this arm to keep the right knee open, keeping the foot down. I'm shifting my weight forward. You can take the arm up and overhead. You can take it behind the head. Keep the weight shifting to your front leg. Keep the weight shifting to your front sitting bone. One more inhale. Exhale, release it down. Now I'm pivoting back to my low lunge stance. Open up through the back hip flexors. Take a breath. And then we're going to work into our high lunge. So you're extending through the back leg. Keep the gaze in one spot, nice and slow, controlled movement on the way up. And then you'll frame the right foot. Bring the hips high. Take it to your downward facing dog. Right away, we're going to step or hop to the top. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, vertebrae by vertebrae all the way up. Reach the palms high. And then exhale, bring it back down to your soft fold. Stepping through plank. Quadruped, knees down. We're going to go into a knee stack, but we're going to do let's just go seated knee stack. So I'm going to face towards you. And I'm going to first extend my left leg. And my heel is in line with the hip. The right leg is coming across. And I'm going to squeeze the knee towards the chest. So my left leg is still staying centered. My right heel, I'm pulling towards my hip line. Now you want to keep the sitting bones down. Keep the foot planted. You can stay really tall here, or you can bring the forehead down. But when you're bringing the forehead down, there's no rounding in the spine. You're just adding more stretch to the back fascia lines, to the back muscles. Now the next step, if you want to go a little bit farther, is pulling that front heel back, still keeping the sitting bones on the ground, but you can try to adjust to get the knees in one line. So I like to use my hands. I know I can do this one because I practice it often, so I'm using my hands, but if you're kind of new to this pose, just make sure you're not pushing or forcing anything too much. You want it to feel pretty natural to let the knees go there to midline. And now here you can kind of press out through the feet, which always feels great. Keeping the sitting bones down nice and tall. We'll bring the palms up and overhead. And then exhale, hands behind, and just take these big circles through the shoulder blades. opening up through the front body. Now, if the knees are pulling into your belly, keep the inner thighs working together and the knees pulling down to the mat. Right arm shoots back up in the air because my right leg is on top. My left arm will go behind and I'll take a bind. Now you're in full Gomukhasana. Keep pushing down through the sitting bones. I like to lift and open the chest. On the next exhale, flex the feet. I'm going to twist towards the right leg. So you can either be here, tall twist, or you can start working down to the forearms. And you want to make sure that opposite side hip is down. And if you're kind of confused on what's happening, because there's a lot of crossing happening here, my left leg is on the bottom, so I'm twisting towards the right side, the right hip. And then gently walk yourself up, keep some energy in the feet, and you're going to keep the knees working down to the mat, but lean back, go nice and slow. You'll probably feel a bigger stretch across the hips. And then gently come back in through center and take the feet out, give them a little shake, let the femurs kind of adjust. And then we'll go ahead and switch right leg forward, left side cross. Same mechanics, you're getting the heel to the hip line, squeezing tight to the chest, pressing down through the sitting bones. You have the option to bring the forehead down. Deep breaths here, you're creating some constriction in the front body, so all the breath work is going into the back body. And then if you want to go farther, you pull the right heel in. Now you can do your adjusting. Remember, if you're new to this pose, don't push it, don't force anything too much. If you're familiar with this pose, you can get your knees to center, sitting bones down. If you're really familiar with this pose, after you do both those things, you can work your feet up, and then you can press into the feet a little bit. And then we'll take the arms up and overhead. As you lift up and overhead, push down through the sitting bones, keep the spine nice and long. And then exhale, hands behind, take a big roll through the shoulders. As you're moving, don't let the sitting bones follow. Keep pushing down. So as you're moving, it's creating a stretch. And then we'll keep the left arm up in the air, right hand reaches back for full Gomukhasana. Ooh, this side's a little tighter. Can't quite reach it. Hiya, hold and breathe. And then on the next exhale, you're gently bringing right arm across. So you can go into a tall twist, or you can start working forearms down to the mat. Remember, it's my right leg that's on the bottom this time, so I'm twisting towards the left hip this time. And taking one more breath. Walking the hands back up. I've got a flex in my foot to protect my hips and my knees. I'm going to keep the knees working down to the mat, but lift through the heart. And then gently come back to center. Pull the knees in this time. Let's go into butterfly position. You can walk the elbows from the inner thigh, the groin, all the way down. If you have some slippery pants, you can also slide, which feels great across the muscles. It's just a little trickier if you're not wearing pants. And then we're going to hold the pressure from the elbow, so get right above the knee joint. And I like to grip the ankle so that I can pull as I'm pushing the elbows down. And then I'm going to bring my forehead towards the toes. So no rounding here, trying to stay nice and long, nice flat back. Feel a hinge at the hip line and keep breathing into the hips. Exhale, now you're going to roll the spine nice and slow. Excellent work. Feel free to take it onto your back, do any sort of spinal twist or any finishing movements. Feel free to take a Shavasana. Anytime there's a chance to take Shavasana, I hope you take it. I always try to. Hope you enjoy. There's a few minutes for your hips. That's some good strengthening and stretch. Obviously, lots of mobility, which is my favorite. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time on the House of Chi Yoga.